You're the CEO and co-founder of TransferWise. Can you give me your 10-second pitch?
TransferWise is an online money transfer platform. We help people and businesses make international payments. We help them do it very quickly for a very low price.
Okay. So today, in terms of figures, it's how much money which is exchanged every month?
So we're transferring 500 million pounds, so it's about 650, 700 million euros every month.
And how many currencies?
More than 30 currencies. So the company is live in US, all over Europe, we're live in Australia, and we send money to about 50 countries.
And growth every month?
We grew about 3 times last year. We're looking at more than doubling this year.
Okay. So let's go back to the story of the beginning. You come from Estonia, and you were the first employee at Skype. You had to live in London and to exchange money in Estonia. That's how it started?
Yep.
Can you go into this frustration that you've been living?
Sure. So, I mean, the way it really started was as I moved to London, I was still getting paid my salary in Estonia. So every month my salary was paid into my bank in Estonia. And every month when I was in Estonia, I had to walk to the bank, stand in line, make a transfer. And, bank told me, yes, welcome, Mr. Taavet. We're happy to transfer your money to London. It's only going to cost you 25 euros. Can you please fill in these papers here? I do it every month, and then I go to London and I go to my bank, I look at my bank statement and I see, wow, it only took 4 or 5 days for the money to arrive. It's kind of ridiculous. Why doesn't my money get there instantaneously like an email? Kind of when I was thinking about, we were building Skype at the moment, so, the experience we all thought about was there's this green button, you press it and you have a video call instantly around the world. So why doesn't money move this way? But then the second thing, which was really frustrating, was I was sending 1,000 euros and I was expecting to receive 800 pounds in London. But then when I look at my statement, it's like 750 pounds or 760 pounds, 740 pounds. So I realized that what's happening is that my bank tells me that yes, we charge you 25 euros to make the transaction, but what they did not tell me is that they use an exchange rate which is very different to the exchange rates that I see when I look at newspapers or Reuters or Bloomberg. So it turns out that banks typically charge between 3 and 5% on top of the official exchange rate. And guess where that money goes? It's pure profit for the bankers.
Okay, but there is no transparency on that, a lot of losing time and physical...
Transparency is really kind of, I think, what it mostly boils down to. Now, if my bank told me that, yes, Mr. Taavet, we will do it, but we're going to charge 7% of your money, okay, cool, then I can either decide to do it, or I will, take the money, put it in my backpack, fly to London, and find somebody on the street who wants to give me pounds. But I think it's kind of this cheating behavior, Mm-hmm. So they don't have enough courage to say out how much they're charging for it. Mm-hmm. And we all know that, if you look at what's happening on the interbank market between the large banks, it is not 7% that gets charged there. So that's what really kind of was the source of the frustration. And at the same time, thinking about what we've done with Skype, looking now, the way you order a taxi with Uber, the way we listen to music, all of these industries have gone through a major change, and that change really is about speed, cost, and ease of use. So why doesn't my bank work like Skype? Why doesn't my bank work like Uber? That was kind of what went in my head and in my co-founder Kristo's head, and then we kind of realized that we can do something to make this one very specific banking service called money transfer. We can make that behave a little bit like Skype and Uber, and that's what we did.
Mm-hmm. So you started this peer-to-peer platform. The very, very first beta version was a chat room in between your friends. How did you start it?
I mean, literally, what we first did with Kristo was very simple. So I said, hey, Kristo, I'm going to transfer 1,000 euros from my account in Estonia to your account in Estonia. And he would transfer £800 from his account in London to my account in London. So we just looked at the interbank exchange rate you set, and both of these transfers are local transfers, so they're fast and free. That's kind of how we did it first. And then we had a Skype chat room between a few other friends who were similarly splitting their life between London and Estonia. And in the chat room, somebody would say, hey, I need 1,000 euros. Someone else would say, yeah, I'll give you £800 for it. That's kind of how we started. It was all really built on the principle of trust, because, all these people in the chat room, we could all trust each other. So if someone said, yeah, I'll give you £800, and I would feel good about transferring them 1,000 euros.
And then you work to get the regulation in the UK.
So then we started thinking about it, and we realized that there are more than 200 million people who either work, live, or study abroad, and we saw that we can do something to help these people. It was really about figuring out that we can help these people, we can make their life a tiny bit better if we gave them a similar way of transferring money as we have. So we kind of started thinking about, so what do we need to turn this little group of friends, or like the way we did it amongst friends, to turn that into something which is a product that everybody can use. So we realized that, it's given that we're dealing with money, we need to be regulated, so we got that out of the way. We built a simple website, and then we went ahead and launched it. And then what happened when we launched was pretty amazing. So we had really we didn't have any expectations, but we kind of realized that there are really two ways to go about it. The first way to go about it is that we will go and write 50 pages of business plan, and we're going to go and knock on investor stores, and maybe somebody will listen to us, and maybe they will give us a bit of money, but that's going to be like a very frustrating experience. And we realized, okay, that's one way of doing it. Other way of doing it is just do it. It is not that hard to build the first prototype. And then you will see if people, first of all, if people will trust the website built by two Estonians, if people want to use this way of transferring money. So we kind of, being pragmatic and down-to-earth Northern Europeans, we realize that it's writing business plans is pretty boring. So let's build a service and let's see if people will use it. And then when we launched it, we didn't quite know what to do. So we thought, okay, there's a friend of ours who knows a journalist at TechCrunch. So we got in touch with a TechCrunch journalist, and he wrote an article, and he was a pretty clever guy. So he called it the Skype of money transfer. And then 15 minutes after that article was published, the first guy sent us £2,000. That was the moment of shit. What are we gonna do now?
Where was he from, this guy? From UK?
I actually don't remember. We should look him up and send him a cake. But then he sent us £2,000, and we were like, wow, what are we gonna do now? We weren't quite expecting it to go this fast. And literally at that point, we both were still busy with other jobs. So Kristo had to hide underneath the table to take customer support calls, and actually it was pretty funny. Like literally the first day we launched, we got hundreds of emails from people, and then we made our first hire. So Kristo asked a friend who was staying in a room in his house that, hey, do you want to help us with customer support? And she was our first hire, and she's still with the company now 5 years later.
When you want to scale, how do you manage?
So there's a hard way of doing it, and there's a pragmatic way of doing it. There's a hard way of doing it, maybe it's a bit similar to writing business plans. The hard way of doing it is that if you don't have enough liquidity, you tell people on one side of the platform to wait. But that means some people will wait forever, and that's a very painful way of growing your business. The other way of doing it is you just figure this out. So what we did at first was very simple. End of the day, I went to my bank, I exchanged these pounds to euros. Every time I paid my bank 3-4% for it. But it worked. We could make our customers happy. And so as we started to grow our volumes, and we started thinking about, okay, there must be a way we can do it cheaper. So we were kind of starting to set up relationships with big banks so we can do that. And now the way it works is that if we look at larger corridors like pound to euro and dollar, they are very liquid. So liquid in our language means there is enough peer-to-peer liquidity. But it's never perfect. So it's kind of, for us, it is part of the operation that automatically our system at one point goes out on the financial markets, buys a few million or buys 10 million worth of pounds, and then we just inject that in the system. But we can do it in a way that it doesn't need any intervention. We don't take any risk. So it's pretty well built and automated today. But for the first, actually, I think. For the first 2 years, everything we did was manual. So every payment that customers made, there was somebody in our back office with a very fast keyboard typing away and making these payments happen.
When did you raise funds finally? Because you didn't ask for it at the very beginning, but you went to pitch many different, from angels to.
We actually so we launched TransferWise in January of 2011. In summer of 11, we took part in Seed Camp, which is a kind of the European version of Y Combinator. So we took part in Seed Camp, and then end of that year, we raised our seed round of money. So we'd been, when we were raising money, we'd been operating for about a year. We could show them that we're doing something which people care about. People are coming back to use TransferWise. We had hundreds of pounds, probably maybe thousands of pounds in revenues. We're also at first we I would say we were a bit stupid when it comes to figuring out how we charge for it. So we charge £1 per transaction. We always make the exchange at the mid-market interbank rate, but we charge the fixed £1 fee. And that's a good marketing slogan.
Instead of for the bank, how much is it?
A bank will charge on average maybe about 5%. Okay. So we charge £1, but that's a great marketing slogan, but it's actually not such a great business model. So I can't remember when we changed it. Sometime maybe a year later we changed it. So now we charge between 0.5 and 1% typically. Okay. But that's still 7, 8, 9, 10 times cheaper than a bank. Yeah. Okay. And and what this means is that we can actually build a profitable business. Charging £1 per transaction. Sadly, we could never build a business.
So first seed round when you were at Seed Camp, how much did you raise?
So our seed round was $1.3 million.
Okay, with one of the guy from PayPal.
Yeah. So the way we looked at the seed round was really about how do we put together a team around us. So we're looking, okay, so we need someone who knows about payments, and Max Levchin and PayPal, great example. So we need someone who knows about banking. So we got a guy who goes by the name Mickey, who now runs a big fintech fund called Ribbit in the US. We got him involved. And okay, we need some support in UK. So Index Ventures is great for this. So kind of looking at it as in a kind of 360-degree way of here are different things we need. Let's try to get as much of this as possible. And some of these people, some of these people have never been of much help. But I'm not holding it against them, because we put together a good group of people, knowing that if whatever happens, there's somebody who can help us. And I think that was a very successful way. And yeah, that group included Max Levchin, founder of PayPal, David Yu, who set up Betfair, and so on.
Yeah. When you convinced these people, when you raised funds, what were the vision that you sold? Why did they buy?
So what they bought was very simple. They bought the fact that we are solving a big problem. Yeah. So you don't need much convincing to know that a lot of people transfer lots of money across the world every day. So it's a big problem. They bought the fact that it's a strong team. So me with my background in building Skype, Kristo with his consulting background, it's a strong team, and we have early traction. We could show them that we're sort of real people who are not friends of ours anymore who were using TransferWise, and they were trusting us with their money. That's all they bought.
How many people were using the platform at that moment? You remember? No.
Don't know. No. It was tiny. Okay. I think
less than 1,000 transactions.
By end of the year, I think we were in thousands. Okay. And we could. It was growing in a very very nice pace. But I think the challenge is that the numbers. If we're talking about fintech, you start with much kind of smaller numbers. To me it was a hard moment when we launched. When I left Skype, we were signing up few 100,000, maybe 500,000 customers every day. And then you go to launching a service, and the first month you have 32 people who use it. It brings you down to reality very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can we go inside the room of pitching Andreessen Horowitz?
We're going too far ahead now.
We will go back.
First, I will tell you about pitching Max Levchin.
Yeah. Okay.
So it
pitching
was
who?
Max Levchin, the PayPal founder. It was a Saturday night.
That is super interesting.
It was Saturday night. We had set up a call, let's say, for 8 p.m. And I had promised my girlfriend that we're going to go out. And then Max is late 15 minutes. So it's 8:15, and I get Max on the line and tell him, "Sorry, Max, I only have 15 minutes for you." And so I tell him the story, and he's very excited. And then he said, "Okay, I'll invest, but the minimum investment I make is $250,000." And then I had the other bad news for him, which is we can only give you an allocation of 75,000. But it was pretty much done in that 15 minutes.
Seriously? Have you been recommended by anyone? I mean, you were introduced.
Good question. I think we had our lead investor already, and I think he made the connection. But basically, I told him I have very little time for you. I'm sorry.
Crazy. And the guy from Skype, he invested?
So if you mean Niklas, who is the founder of Skype, no, he did not.
You told him?
We've spoken with Niklas about it already many times. It kind of never. So at first, when I spoke with Niklas, and he had stopped doing early stage investing at the moment, and at later times, we've always been looking around at who is the best match at that given time, and we remain great friends. And I think what he's doing with Atomico is really really amazing in Europe. I think it's great that we have more strong VCs that are being led by people who've actually built companies, unlike a lot of other VCs.
Kima Venture already also invested.
Yeah. I was when Kima was run by Jeremy, who is incredibly persistent. He kept on coming in through doors and windows. But he was actually, Jeremy was one of the first people. Yeah, he was one of the first people who noticed us. I actually remember, I think he emailed us right after launching, already saying that he wants to invest. So when we raised money a year later, then he was very proud to come back saying, "I wanted to invest a year ago. You need to take my money."
You are really on a volume business model, right? So in a way, the question around making a revenue for your business model is a really long-term thing, right? You need to have in front of you people who understand the value of creating a link between a product and a community. Did you feel this kind of mental framework? It was hard to find in Europe, and you could find.
So, like if you're kind of thinking about investors, then we've actually always gone outside of Europe for our investors. Our seed round was led by IA Ventures from New York. Our A round was led by Peter Thiel's Valar Ventures from San Francisco. For our A round, we spoke to and had a bunch of term sheets. Actually one from Europe. So we've never been afraid of jumping on a plane, and we always knew we're solving a global problem, and that smart investors are willing to look outside of their kind of home
problems, because this currency exchange is not at all something they can really feel from their country.
Yeah, but also I think when we were raising our first money, fintech was not the hype word as it is today. So you had to kind of look around at people who are willing to do fintech investments. But these people knew that we are a payment business, and payment business is a scale business. So but at scale they can be really transformative, and at scale they can also be financially very successful. But it will take time to get to scale.
Do you think, can you tell us about pitching Andreessen Horowitz?
So we pitched Andreessen Horowitz first time when we were raising our A round. We didn't plan on pitching them because they were kind of known as they don't invest in Europe. But we were in the valley, and then somebody put us in touch with them over a weekend. And we said, we're flying out on Monday night. They said, hey, can you come in on 6 p.m. on Monday? So it was pretty funny. We were going there, and we go into the reception, and 6 p.m. there's nobody left at a VC firm. So we go into the reception and we say, hey, we've been emailing here with Ben and have a meeting. So the receptionist says, oh, you have a meeting with Mark? Okay. So we walk in the room, and the whole partnership was there. So we do our pitch to the partnership, and then we get an email back the next day, and yes, we love you guys. We spoke to Larry Summers, who was our special advisor. We're like, it's awesome. We'll write you a check, but there's one condition: you have to move to California. And then we were like, you're kind of cool guys, but it just doesn't make any sense for us to move to California, because we have a business in Europe, we have customers in Europe. We know that UK is a great home country for us. Actually, building a global business is much better to be in London compared to California. And we were like, sorry guys, But then we went back 2 years later, when we were raising our C round, and that was then a pretty quick thing. Then literally got back in touch with Ben saying, hey, here's where we are, do you want to hear more? He was like, yeah, can you come over to have a partner meeting? We did that, and and we ended up being the first investments they made outside of US. But I think it kind of highlights a few things. It highlights the thing of actually kind of building relationships. And this is something which has happened to us with other people as well. You go to them on year one and tell them what they're doing, and it's like, yeah, cool, nothing to do now. But then you go back a year later, and here's what we said we'll do. We've actually done it, and it tells a very different story. And by that time also, the business was much more mature, and they could see that we're actually capable of running a company ourselves, without needing adult supervision and without having to be in their kind of backyard.
What do you think about Estonia? It's not a startup nation
No, Estonia. I love Estonia. It's a fantastic place. It's still small, and it still has very bad weather, but it's a great place, and it's a very, very big startup hotbed as well. So if we look at the number of startups per capita in Estonia, we're probably the leading country in the world. So right now, the vice president of the commission in charge of the digital single market, Andrus Ansip, is an Estonian. Yeah, so he's I know him very well. Also, I'm an advisor to the Prime Minister in Estonia on everything about the internet. So it's a very forward-looking country, and we've been lucky enough to rebuild the country in a modern way in the past 20 years. and that's why for Estonians it's normal to pay your taxes online. That's why we're now pushing forward with things like e-residency and so on, to kind of think about how do we provide a country as a service or a country as a platform to other people. So given that we're a tiny country and we're located in the backwoods, so nobody will come to Estonia, but how do we give the benefits of Estonia to people who are outside of Estonia? So I think that's very much about disrupting nations. Thinking about how do we apply disruptive nature of the internet to countries, and the same way of thinking.
You may know because by developing TransferWise, you know that each country has their own regulation and they are more or less open to disruptors. Who are the interesting countries that are open to welcome innovation like TransferWise, according to you? Things that can be relevant through your eyes.
So if we think about, I think every country wants to be a fintech nation. Every bank is calling themselves a fintech now. But I think oftentimes it comes down to the small countries who can be more of kind of leading the way. And I think Estonia being small, we've done lots of great things. Another country that I like a lot in this sense is Singapore. Actually showing how you can also build a country in the middle of nowhere, and Singapore's history is a little bit longer than Estonia, but in 50 years having built a country which used to be a jungle with roaming tigers into one of the leading countries in the world, and just doing it because one man had a vision and he was just relentless in executing it. So the same way UK is a great place, and I'm loving the support that we get from the UK government, and they've really thought about who will be creating the jobs of the future, and how do we create the country which is welcoming entrepreneurship, and hopefully they will also be smart about keeping entrepreneurs in and staying in Europe, otherwise we'll all leave. But how do we build an environment that is fostering innovation? Fintech is something which is very close to heart to number 10 in London as well.
So Taavet, you come from a scientific background, engineering background, but you really have this kind of psychological skill to understand that your customer needs care. And you need to understand properly your customer. You really insist on trust, you really insist on transparency, and that is part of the values of TransferWise. How the care for the customer is really something that you put concretely in the product of TransferWise.
So I think different industries, different problems need a different mindset. So in Skype we were about providing a mass service, so customer support was something that wasn't the priority. It was okay, we're going to give our customers a forum and they can help each other, because there's no way we can give them all support. And I think then when we finally launched paid services, we also had to think about support in case of Skype. In case of TransferWise, we're dealing with money from the start. Trust is such a big issue, and customer support is something which banks do really poorly. So it felt that it's a way of overcoming trust problems. To this day, people give us a call and they're like, "Oh, is this a real company? Do you guys really exist?" At first it was like the biggest use case for customer support. People would call us up like checking if it's actually a company. If that phone number works. So we kind of realized that. Having someone pick up the phone in 15 seconds and that someone being an educated, real human being, instead of this being outsourced to a server farm in the Philippines, that it makes a lot of sense. It just increases trust. It will give our customers this feeling of security. So it was a no-brainer to do that.
Very hardly. Okay. Let's
and at this day we pride ourselves by our customer support. We really believe that we're offering fantastic support, and it is something which is kind of this customer centricity, something which we've strongly built into the organization. Like last week, I was sitting in customer support for an hour, handled 5 cases, and it was great to be kind of reinforced about things which still don't work, where we can do a better job, and just sometimes customers they want to talk to someone. That's great, As a customer myself, I prefer other means of communication. When we do phone, we do email, we do all kinds of ways of support, but obviously the best way of support is by not needing support, having self-support in the system. But there are always people who prefer to speak, and we should cater for that.
I would love to talk about your CEO vision. Vision and organization. How do you organize these people, around your project and priority? And your CEO week. What do you focus on?
Might be close to 10 offices. What we realized is that the best way of working is by organizing our work into small teams, and kind of small self-contained teams. You have engineers, product managers, everything the team needs to take a customer problem and to deliver a solution. Because otherwise, if they have to go and okay, we're gonna build this little piece, and then other team will build this piece, and then it won't work until we buy this piece. It's kind of a very painful and slow way of doing it, and it's there's a cost to coordinating, and it ends up costing lots of time in the end. So if you really want to be fast, you need to think about how do you organize your teams in a way that are self-sufficient, and then it comes down to teams are self-sufficient. So how do you make sure they know which problems to solve? What are the KPIs? How do you make sure they're focusing on what's important for customers? Building in this customer centricity in the whole organization.
So you divide it by type of customers?
No, no. Customers are still pretty much one, but every team thinks about what is their impact on customers. How do we make sure that what they do is related to a real customer problem?
So the product, the biggest. How do you structure your product and your team around this product? If you had to split this kind of little project.
So we can say. So our currencies team, which as a team is probably one of the bigger ones now, but they are split into small teams. So there would be one team working on getting Australia live. So there is someone who works on regulations. There is somebody who works on the banking relationship.
For each country, you need someone working on the regulation.
Yeah, but then there's a team of people who work together. As a regulatory person, there is a banking person, there are developers, product manager. Then as they get close to launching, they will also bring in customer support. So kind of a small team which is empowered to take us from the moment where we say let's go after Australia to until we have real customers using the product in Australia.
So would you say that your team are organized by country?
It's a mix of countries and kind of functions. So we have teams now we have a team for maybe it's the first time we have a team focused on a type of customer. So we have a team that is starting work on small to medium business. Thinking about what can we do to be more successful in the business area. And then we have US is actually a very kind of a tightly knit and focused team. That is focused on US as a geography. Other parts is kind of a mix in between.
Great. And how is your week?
How is my week? So
from you wake up and until you go to rest.
So I probably I wake up around 7 when my 2-year-old daughter comes waking us up. Then usually I run to office, so I leave home after 8, spend 35 minutes running to the office. On any given week, if I look in my calendar on Monday, there's probably about 25-30 meetings in the calendar already, and some travel. So last week I was in Estonia for 2 days. This week, Paris. So traveling, if you're running a global business, that means that you kind of, unfortunately, you need to be everywhere, and then trying to manage my evening time to make sure I have time for family and to make sure I say no to as many things as possible. I could spend every.
You learn to say no.
I say no to 99% of things. That's a very critical skill.
I'm very happy to have you here. Thank you.
Usually I try to get home to spend a bit of time with family, and then probably will start working again at kind of 9 p.m. on most weekdays, and continue around until 11 midnight 1.
What do you open? Your Slack, your emails, your text message, your Facebook? I mean, what is the most open as a tool to communicate with your mates? I mean, your colleagues.
Actually, I'm finding more and more the best ways to have everything closed.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
No, I mean, we use lots of email. We use no, we use Slack, and probably if we don't use Slack, there will be much more email. Mm-hmm. But a lot of what I do is with outside world, so there is still inevitably lots of email, lots of Slack, and so on. But I think it actually what is kind of equally important is to turn your email off and turn your Slack off and focus on what you need to get done.
Mm-hmm. Would you say you focus more on the external, like a hunter, or you're more like the farmer, the one that is keeping the product inside and checking the product?
Yeah, I'm not sure in that comparison I can say which. I do spend a lot of my time on external things, and that's why there's a whole leadership team who's focusing on helping to keep the business running. So mm-hmm. In the end it's a team sport. So it's about having the best team around you that you can have to make sure you can continue scaling and growing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.